welcome to The Shallow End. I'm Dave Schwartz, Iowa Dave Sports Cards on Instagram, and today we're talking about baseball cards. And that's it. In today's episode, we get the return of Jason, Contrarian Cards on IG, and we start the episode with one basic question that takes us into the sort of conversation about sports cards we all love to have. We're just talking cards. And what was our starting point? It was this. Over the next several months, Fanatics takes over the primary NFL and NBA card licenses. If a football or a basketball collector has only ever collected during the Panini era, what can they learn about their hobby space based on how Fanatics and Topps has behaved around the baseball card hobby? What might baseball cards tell us about what is about to happen to football and basketball cards? In other words, what does it mean, and what do you have to know if you're a mainstream sports card collector in 2025? You ready? Let's get started. Super excited to welcome Jason, Contrarian Cards, back to the show. And we got to thinking a little bit as we were getting ready to talk and setting up some topics and whatnot, that we were thinking that later this year, Fanatics will be taking over the licenses of football and basketball. Of course, they already have baseball, and we are big baseball card collectors. And that's got us thinking about what can folks who collect football and basketball what can they expect, right? What can they expect from Fanatics based on the current state of what Fanatics is doing within the baseball market? And it's always great just to talk baseball cards. There's so many different ways that we can go with it. The baseball market is booming right now, depending on what your definition of booming happens to be. But either way, it's just kind of just fun to talk baseball cards. So today we're talking all things baseball cards, largely in the modern market, but I'm sure we will drift back into vintage and into ultra modern and 80s and whatever else comes up. And Jason, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back, Dave. Fired up to talk baseball cards, talk the market, talk whatever we want to talk about, man. I'm so stoked.
Very good. So let's say that there is somebody who is purely just a basketball collector. And it's not that they don't like football. It's not like they don't like baseball or soccer or hockey or highlight or whatever, but they're just into basketball. And for the last 13 years, they've been collecting nothing but Prism cards to the point that they have, Panini cards, to the point that they have not even looked at the unlicensed Topps basketball for the last couple of years. They've never seen a Fanatics card, let's just say that. And now they are preparing for Fanatics taking over this basketball license, and they come to you saying, hey, what can I expect? And you say, well, I'm mostly just a baseball card collector, but here's kind of what being a baseball collector is like at the moment. How would you begin that conversation?
Yeah, that would be first. I mean, that would be a really fun conversation to have, and I hope I get to have that with various people. But yeah, I would say where I've kind of gotten to is I'm strictly a Topps guy. I've never bought a Panini card. Not that I don't like them or anything like that. I've just never connected with the brand. And I don't follow basketball and football that much anymore. But yeah, so I would start by saying, like, okay, here's the landscape of products, of which there's many. And then here's the landscape of card types, of which there's many. And then, you're talking about your big guys, your Mahomes, your who's big in the NBA, Curry, LeBron, Shea, Halliburton, whoever. And yeah, I would kind of just start by talking about, like, okay, here's the big picture player wise, here's the big picture product wise, here's the big picture card type wise, here's all that sort of stuff. But what I think about most and what I would talk about most is just like, how are you going to navigate kind of the manufacturer a little bit, just because I feel like as collectors, our interests are sort of they don't necessarily run parallel to that of the manufacturer. Where Fanatics or Tops, Panini, they're making more and more and more and more and more. And what that makes me think and what that makes me feel is I have to be, more discerning. I have to be, you know, I have to think, I have to focus on, which way I want my collecting to go, because with so many options, with prices, it just puts a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of the collector, I feel, to navigate that and to just really do the best we can as individuals to get into the cards that make us happy, get into the cards that could hopefully maintain value or even increase in value if we're so lucky, in these types of things, and then just find just sort of you know our way to navigate that. And we can talk about specific sets, but I would say in baseball, and I want your thoughts on this as well. But in baseball, I've gotten very focused, just in terms of the types of cards I go after, and it really comes down. It really all starts with the flagship image. And so, if you're from basketball, if you're from football, and you've heard that term loosely or whatever, but maybe you don't know exactly what we're talking about. That just means like their basic tops card. Series 1, Series 2, Update, Chrome, Sapphire, all these products will generally share that same image, obviously. So it's like, Shohei Otani's base card, from 2025 Tops. He has two, because he has one as a hitter and as a pitcher, but that image will be reused on all these main products. And then off of that, the parallels will come, and then you sort of kind of navigate from there. But that's kind of where I start with it. And I try not to drift too far from there, from the flagship photograph. Obviously, you have your variations and whatnot, but yeah, that's kind of where I would start. What do you think about all that, and just kind of where's your starting point or whatever?
I was going one direction, and then you went and brought up Otani, and then my mind started going a different direction, and I started thinking of this. In this hobby, we create arguments that don't necessarily have to be there. Sometimes they're out of fun. Sometimes people take them too seriously. And I think about the current, I won't even say argument, the debate over what is the foundational Otani rookie card. Because you talked about Series 1, Series 2, Update, Chrome. And that's what we think, right? Is that Series 1, 2, or Update would be their traditional rookie card. Except for him, Bowman came out first. There was the Bowman paper that came out first with him pitching. The leg is kicked up high in the air behind him on his follow through. But then there's the Bowman Chrome, which is the one that people want because he's hitting and say, oh, that's the one that's going to have the staying power. But then if you want the flagship Tops, that came out later in Series 1, but he wasn't in that one. He was in Series 2, and then came Update. And already I feel like I've lost the poor person who came to me for advice at that point, right? Now, that's not Fanatics' fault. They didn't own the company at that point. That's the hobby's fault for making it more complicated than it is, as opposed to just collecting what you think is great. You then become territorial over what you have, protectionist over things like value and bragging rights and everything else. But I think that you're right, where you want to start at the beginning. You want to start at the basics. And the basics isn't Tops Fire, which is now gone, right? It's not even right. Heritage, which I love. I know you really like Tops Heritage, right? But you almost want to start at the beginning. And if you were talking to a basketball player, you'd say, okay, maybe you've only been collecting Panini since 2012 or whatever year, but clearly you like some of these players. Maybe you like Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaq, whoever. Go look at their cards from the 90s, and that's kind of what you can expect now, right? In Chrome, Finest, those types of things. But it can get pretty unwieldy, and the more, but I think you can almost get sort of drill down and become hyper specific, almost out of necessity, because if you just start grabbing everything with all of your different tentacles, you're going to be driving yourself nuts, right? And so we focus not just to have more focused collections, but to keep ourselves from going insane. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, so many things. What is your favorite Otani rookie, by the way? Do you have one just off the top of your head?
I have two favorite. I have a tie. I'm gonna say that I have a tie, which is not
Yeah,
fair.
that's all right.
One of them I have, one of them I don't. The one that I don't have that I love is just his Bowman Chrome hitting.
Okay.
It's and then the other one is his Series 2
Hitting.
pitching.
Oh,
The,
pitching. Okay.
the crane. Sometimes they call it the crane pose, right, where he's got the leg kicked up high.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
his first Topps flagship card are the two that
Okay.
but I also love his heritage one. I mean, he's got that look where he's
Yeah.
just gazing into the camera. There's something timeless about that photo, which Heritage has a way of doing with players as well. So there you go. You asked me which one is my favorite, and I picked three.
That's in. Well, it's interesting because you didn't pick any of them. You didn't pick my favorite. Mine, I like Update where he's pitching. I think it's Update, right? Where it's more just like a centered image. He's like staring directly into camera, pitching. There's no.
Yep.
He's got the red jersey.
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
and if you were just starting out, you might think, isn't that Series 2? No, Series 2, he's winding up, right? He's kind of got the leg up. He hasn't followed through yet. I think he's wearing all white.
It's so weird, man. And like that. So, and I guess that could be another thing just to touch on is like, and I feel like more and more this is kind of front and center in the hobby is like a lot of people asking themselves like, are rookie cards as important as I've been told or I've been led to believe? And when it comes to, I mean, that's the answer to that question is going to be very different based on who you are, what you like, what player it is, that kind of thing. Like if we just talk, Otani's a good person to reference because he's so expensive. Like, and I'm a person that I prioritize card type over, so it's like with me, I just bought a Otani not too long ago. I bought his 2019 Sapphire with the gold cup. And I don't have any Otani rookies. And I thought about, yeah, you got it on the screen there. So yeah, 2019 Topps Chrome Sapphire edition. That's the orange refractor out of 25. The parallel structure that year is the 1 of 1, the red out of 5, the purple out of 10, and the orange is the highest number out of 25. But I went with this card over any of his rookie options just because, like with Otani, I felt like anything in the card type that I wanted is completely unaffordable. Basically, if I can't get his, gold refractor from any of those flagship sets or those with those chrome images for probably under what I don't even know. It's probably a couple $1,000s, probably more. So to me, I like I would rather have the second year option, in an image. I really like this image. I'm an Otani pitching image guy. All my Otani cards, of which I only own 4, but they're all pitching images. I just feel like that's kind of what is really unique and distinguishing about him. Obviously, he's a great hitter as well, but that's just my preference. So yeah, so before I get too off the rails, but yeah, going back to the rookie card of it, that's something I would talk to people about that are coming in from basketball well, I guess that's not really going to matter now because, well, moving forward it will with the new class and whatnot, but yeah, that's something I think about a lot. It's like how much emphasis do you need to put on the rookie card, and there's just so many variables that go into that. You've heard people like Brett talk about it lately with Halliburton being on a different team and all that type of thing. With Otani, I think it's interesting because I don't think his reputation as an angel is insignificant. So I think all those rookie cards that you're talking about are still very, very attractive items just because his legacy was really born, as an angel from 21 to 23. Those, to me, those seasons are just so significant because that's when he really changed everything. And he was in an Angels uniform for all those. So regardless of what he does moving forward, I still really appreciate those Angels cards. But yeah, think I think I've talked myself sufficiently off the point at this point, and I kind of forgot where I was going. Um, but yeah, focusing. Okay, so here's what I want to say. So many options, so many parallels, so many sets. Series 1, Series 2, Update, Chrome, Sapphire. So what do we do? Yeah, it's kind of like this weird thing where it's like I was thinking about this the other day in terms of like I don't know if you're like a Game of Thrones fan or a Lord of the Rings fan or a Star Wars fan or any of that kind of stuff. What's so great about all that is the lore. It's so deep, and there's so many twists and turns and little places you can go, and all these ancient, stories and families and yada yada yada. I think about baseball cards the same way, even like in this ultra modern era. Like you showed that card a while back with the little sparkle on the toe, and I
Yeah.
thought that was like the coolest little thing because I'm like, God, what a weird thing to have done and to have happened. And that's just so, and you go on Blowout, you see all these people that talk about, oh, this little thing or that little thing or this set from eons ago that had this little variation. I love all that stuff. Um, and I love that that's still happening, but also it's like that gets us back to the focus point where it's like, okay, what matters? And when I say that, I don't mean that broadly. I mean like what matters to me, what matters to Dave, what matters to you, whoever you are buying cards. And to me, what matters? A great photograph, a rare card, a nice card type that I from a brand that I respect, like Sapphire, like Heritage, like Flag, like the Series One, Series Two, whatever, from Chrome, but not, and I just want to be careful not to like, I'm going to talk about some stuff I don't like, and when I say that, I don't want anybody to take that as like a sign of disrespect to that set or that that type of card or that type of collecting, but it's hard to have a honest discussion by just not saying these things. So, but you mentioned Topps Fire, like that's a brand that it's just I would never look at anything like that just because like I mean, it's you have to make choices and you have to exclude things and you have to look, away a lot of the time from stuff that you don't feel is prominent. So yeah, I would kind of have that sort of conversation, just about where do you start and then what where are you looking to go, what historically has mattered in baseball. You were talking about the Bowman products, the Bowman Chrome, the Bowman First. I've never I've never personally like gotten into that. I'm just not a prospect guy. Like I look at a lot of those cards and like the images don't really do it for me. I think about like that Soto card and like the helmet looks too big for his head. Like a lot of those cards, they just look like they look like I just can't connect them with their fully actualized selves as baseball players, and so that's just sort of never resonated with me. But within the hobby broadly, I know those cards are super significant, and a lot of people really value those very highly, especially the autographs and the numbered parallels and whatnot. So yeah, I think I'm drifting a bit here. So what maybe kind of rein me in here a little bit and
Yeah,
see if there's
what you just talked about with the rookies and the parallels. You mentioned the Sparkle Toe from it's either 2014 or 15, I can't remember, where they put these random tops with these random small little sparkles that almost look like a glare being shot back from a flash on a camera, but a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the size of your fingernail
yeah.
on these cards, and they didn't number them. And you didn't know to look for them.
It's so
and,
weird.
and I've got one of Jason Hayward, which I found in a value box, and I guarantee that the person didn't know that he had it in there from the store where I bought it. Probably wouldn't have cared anyway. And since then, I've looked for some other ones, and I think there's a Prince Fielder one online for around $14 or $15. But that's one thing that Topps does that Panini does rarely does, which is have limited run cards without numbering them.
Yeah,
So
a
when
lot
I
of the
think
image
about
variations and short prints.
exactly, exactly. So when I think about Panini and their limited run cards, I think of their golds out of 10, the gold vinyls out of 5 or 1, depending on what type of set it is. And of course, Topps has their numbered cards as well, but they also have this unique to them short print run non-numbered, which can frustrate a lot of people, right? And so let me show some examples here of Juan Soto, because you brought him up before as well. That if you're listening to this and you baseball fan, this is you're not gonna necessarily learn anything here, right? You're already gonna understand what I'm showing here, but it's still worth talking about. So, for example, you've got this sort of like the legendary, too soon to be iconic, but someday could be iconic, Juan Soto his Topps update rookie, right?
I like that one. I know. I think that's a classic looking baseball card.
I love the colors.
Yeah,
the red, the white, the blue. He's got the high leg kick going on with his right leg, and it just a fantastic image.
Juan Soto looks. So just a side tangent. Juan Soto looks great on 2018, on 2019 the horizontal. 2020 is an awesome looking image. 2021 might be my favorite Juan Soto flagship image. It's another horizontal where you see like the National Park backstop right behind him. That's such a beautiful card.
There are some players who get absolutely shafted by the photographers for Topps, and he is not. He has wonderful cards.
He has some great images.
Yes. Fantastic Stadium Club. I don't know if it's 20 or 21. His chrome variation where it's him with his stuff in the dugout with his stuff over his shoulder, where he's walking.
That's it's not Stadium Club. That's the Topps chrome imagery. Right. I was actually today just prepping a little bit. I just typed in 2021 Topps Juan Soto and sorted by most expensive and looked at basically every buy it now on eBay. So I'm pretty like he's kind of top of mind. Yeah. And we can talk about him more. But yeah, that image is awesome. And that's a card. There's a few on eBay right now that I think are pretty reasonably priced in parallel form, like in the couple $100 range. But I mean, it's not something I'm going to move in on right now, but I could see somebody buying a card like that and being pretty happy.
In another life, in an earlier life, I used to joke around that I used to say I have a Juan Soto problem. And there's no one who I bought and sold more of than him because he was kind of hot when I got back into it.
Yeah.
In the hobby. And I owned that card in a gold PSA 10, gold out of 50 PSA 10.
The variation where he's walking into the duck, that's such a sick card, dude.
Yeah. But at the time it was a pop 2 or pop 3 and I ended up selling it or whatever. And I think I'll reacquire it at some point. Not the gold. I don't even care about the color of it, right? It's just the image is so wonderful.
Beautiful.
Even just the base refractor would
the back of his jersey just pops so nice because it just says Soto and the colors and the number. It's just such a great shot.
It's great. And so you have this picture, which in itself is going to be quite memorable as long as he continues his trajectory. But then you have this short print, right?
Which that's a classic too.
Which to me this is my favorite card of his.
Oh, really? Okay.
It looks like, because to me, my parents used to have this reprint Norman Rockwell painting in our house when I was growing up. And just the way the colors on this card reproduced. And if you're listening to this is his Hands on Hips 2018 update short print rookie. Not numbered. Hands on his hips, it's got a New Era cap ad behind him and printed on the dugout. I think it's New Era. And he's just kind of looking off to the side. I have a thing for dugout cards anyway. I think they're pretty timeless. You can put this right next to the 53 Bowman Musial and they could be having a conversation as far as I care. But man, the colors on this are incredible. But even this is not as desirable as what is considered to be his flagship most desirable card, which is this, right? Which is the original Soto Gatorade bath card. There's another one from another year where it's a vertical shot where he's getting dumped with Gatorade. And now there's lots of Gatorade cards for other players. But we're looking ahead as, again, 2018 update, SSP this time. So we've gone from his base to his SP to his SSP, all numbered the same on the back, none of them numbered, and just desirable based on your understanding and education of the product.
And then the print runs are kind of like estimated, right? Like typically what I'll do is they'll Cardboard Connection or Blowout or whoever will kind of estimate like, oh, it's 35 cards or it's 70 or whatever it is based on like the back of the napkin math or the pack math or the pull rate math or whatever. But
and this card here has wild fluctuations in price based on whether he's moving teams again.
Oh man.
Do me a favor and just talk about your thoughts on this card. I just need to do one thing real quick. So just talk for a few seconds about it.
Yeah, no, I can talk for probably an hour about Juan Soto. So like right now, well, I guess, so this card's, so again, back to the rookie card, like I'm like, this is not my kind of card. I'm more of a parallel guy. And I don't get too into the like paper image SPs. I would, as just speaking for my own subjective preferences, like I probably would never go after a card like this, but I think it is beautiful, and just like that era of Juan Soto is always going to be a big deal based on what he did at such a young age for the Nationals and the World Series and all that. And Dave, I threw in if you did want to show people that one we were talking about, I threw a link in the chat of that image variation that you used to have, but don't feel obligated. But anyway, so on Soto. I do want to talk about him like specifically just because he is very top of mind for me right now, and I think he like exemplifies so much of like collecting in ultra modern baseball. I don't own any Juan Soto cards right now, but I'd really like to. And his situation is just so interesting because you had a guy come in so young, so much success, World Series, and then have some really iconic cards like those that you were just showing with Washington from 2020 or 2018 all the way to 2022. And then he goes to San Diego and, has some success with the Padres. He's always performing. There we go. And then for the people listening on a podcast, Dave just threw up the image variation from 2021 Chrome. And it's this where he's walking into the dugout with the jersey backwards holding his gear. And it's just such a cool card. But anyway, goes to the Padres in 23, continues to have success there, goes to the Yankees, has success there, and now he's a Met. And I sort of became a Mets fan last year. I still consider myself mostly a baseball neutral. I just root for the sport, root for the players that I like and that type of thing. But I somewhat identify as a Mets fan. And so I've been thinking about him, and he's kind of heating up now. He struggled at the beginning of the season, and I think his stuff has been kind of low key, quiet. But he's got some great cards out there, and a lot of them that I'm looking at, and the few that I'm trying to decide between. But Soto is just so fascinating because, like in baseball card collecting, if you're from football, if you're from basketball, a lot of the demand and the momentum, I think, tends to come more from championships. In baseball, that's not necessarily the case. It certainly can be. It doesn't hurt, to win the World Series. But I think in baseball, like guy in Soto's won a title, but I don't think that's necessarily what like is the key driver. At least for me, and a lot of the collectors I know, it's more about. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I think about WAR a lot, and it really is a primary driver of how I collect ultra modern. Like I have thresholds that I'm looking for, and if somebody's not there, I'm really not considering getting involved with their stuff. And we have Soto now at this point, and a lot of it's relative to age as well. But we have Juan Soto, and I made a note, and this is courtesy of Fangraphs, but he is about to be 28 years old, I think. And among active players, he is 17th overall in total WAR. So he's at 38.7 for his career, and that's over just over 1,000 games played. So for context, Mike Trout is the active leader in total career WAR at 86.3. Then there's a big drop off. The next closest is Freddie Freeman at 63. And then you've got Soto about 20 behind guys like that, but also having played half the games and being 10 years younger. So, yeah, let me pause there. And do you want to just share? So I know you have a Juan Soto problem. You're on the record of saying that. Is there anything you want to talk about with Juan Soto while I be quiet for a second?
It's only that you touched on it a little bit with him with the changing team things. And I agree that in baseball, perhaps more so than in other sports, it doesn't necessarily matter whether you've won a championship or not. Ted Williams never won a title. Frank Thomas never won a title. I don't think Andre Dawson ever won a title. You can just kind of go down the line and Hall of Famers who, because there are, the rosters, depending on the size of the season, are so big that even the best player, like Trout's, never come close to winning one.
Nope. Probably never will.
No. But what does worry me, though, is that he keeps leaving fan bases. He has no roots either, right? So he's got the title in Washington, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But then he left not much long after that, and he goes to San Diego, like you said, and then he leaves. And the legacy of that might be the players that the Nationals got back in that trade, more than the fact that he went to San Diego in the first place.
Yeah,
like James Wood and
did they get Abrams too, or
CJ Abrams? Like, so 3 really solid players. And then he goes to the Yankees, and then he leaves there and alienates the most storied franchise and their fans in baseball, which is also problematic. But I guess it's only problematic if you are a collector who is worried about the values of the card. And we all worry about the values of the card. I'm not saying we shouldn't worry about that. That matters, right?
Yeah.
But I think if your bigger focus is on just the player or certain teams or whatever it happens to be, then it doesn't necessarily matter. And if anything, him jumping around so much will drive prices down, which is good for you if you're that kind of collector, because at this point he's somehow is already a 26-year-old journeyman.
Yeah.
At this point, he's doing now at the beginning of what should be his prime.
Yeah.
What Kevin Durant is doing now at age 38 at the end, going from Brooklyn to Phoenix to now Houston, except he's doing it, at a completely different phase of his career.
It's backward. It's so wild. It's like he's having like a reverse career where he started out and, went to the top of the mountain at 20 whatever years old, flopped around to a few different teams, and now he's going to be with the Mets for the next 10 years and like build his identity as a Met. And I think it's kind of neat, to be honest. And like, I'm probably going to have to buy these cards because I'm going to talk about them, and I'm going to. So there's like 2 Yankees gold refractors on eBay right now, and I think that's just such a cool card because one's the true gold from Update, and there's like a mini diamond, and they're like $50 and $70. And I just think that's a really nice card at that price point to have, like a true gold Juan Soto. That's going to be his only card in a Yankee uniform, and it's a great pose.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that the Yankees fans are all probably so, like, why would you want to buy his cards if you're a Yankees fan? But I don't care about the Yankees. I care about Juan Soto. And I care about cool cards at good prices. And that's kind of another, so like, that's another thing, like just with man, it's like, I guess in basketball and football, there's a lot of that too with these, whatever, but these guys go, maybe more so in basketball, going from team to team or whatever. But to me, like, typically that hurts the image. Like when I think of basketball, like basketball really died for me when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors. Like I had been a pretty big basketball fan prior to that, and it's kind of, just dropped my pen, kind of hypocritical of me to say, because like LeBron's probably my favorite player, and I loved it when he went to the Heat. I loved it when he went back to Cleveland. I don't know. So but when Durant went to the Warriors, that just seemed so overpowered. Like I just kind of quit caring. And who knows, there's probably, I'm probably outside my lane and talking about that, but yeah, in baseball, that doesn't really matter that much, because baseball, it's just so hard to win, and it's just so many variables, and it's so random, and it's a long season, and it's just like one person, even if you're Ohtani, has so much less of a overall impact on the team winning as they would in basketball or football as the quarterback or whatever. So that kind of stuff, to me, like Juan Soto is, I don't know. It's like when I think about Juan Soto, he's not damaged by that team to team bouncing around. Like when I think of Juan Soto, I just think of like the theater of his at bats, how he can walk, take all these pitches, just moving around, doing all these Juan Soto things.
He talks to himself.
Yeah, it's so entertaining. And like, maybe it's just now because I watch all the Mets games. I have MLB TV, so I'm just seeing him play every day. So maybe I'm just like building more of a connection with him personally. But yeah, So, but I want to get your opinion though. I sent you 2 cards. And I just like, I'm probably not going to buy either one of these, but like when I think about baseball card collecting in this era, in this Topps Fanatics era, and if somebody new was coming into cards and they were like, oh yeah, I like Mahomes, what I would do is I would tell them, like, all right, well, what's the best possible Mahomes card you could get? If you ask me, Well, obviously it's going to be his Topps Chrome Superfractor. And I don't think that's breaking news to anybody, but you're probably not going to be able to get that card. So what's the next card you might be able to get? Well, the next best, Patrick Mahomes card for any given year out of a Topps Fanatics product is probably going to be one of his red parallels out of 5. Ideally, the true red refractor, maybe from Topps Chrome or I'd rather have the Sapphire personally because I think it looks better. But maybe the red refractor. Maybe if you want to go a little further down, the red wave they don't get quite the same respect that the true parallels get. And then you start looking at other stuff. Maybe it's the gold. In some cases, I think gold is better than orange. In some cases, I think orange is better than red. I collect Lindor. I'd rather have an orange Lindor than a red Lindor. It just makes more sense to me, even with the higher serial numbering and that type of thing. I just think it's a cooler card. So yeah, but I sent you those Juan Soto cards. Let me get your thoughts. And just like, what do you think about cards like this, just in general? You're a guy, you collect vintage, you collect 90s, you collect 2000s. You're familiar with all the eras. As a well-rounded baseball card collector, like, what's your take on a card like this? This is the for the listeners on the screen here is the 2019 Topps Chrome Sapphire, the orange out of 25 for Juan Soto. It's a horizontal image. He's got the bat just kind of sticking. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. I hope you can see the video of this if you're listening, because this is a neat one here. So,
I think cards like these, that they attract, little neighborhoods of collectors. And it doesn't necessarily matter if everyone likes them. What matters is if enough people like them. And not to validate people's like for them, but so that Topps Fanatics keeps printing them, and so that there can be legacies over time. For example, they had talked about getting rid of the black flagship parallel this year, and people who have collected that since it debuted in 2003 for the last 21, 22 years were really upset by that. And they organized, and I want to give credit to to Chris and Jeff, who do blabbing about slabbing, and they really helped organize people and did this online campaign. And then Fanatics recognized the demand for it and then brought it back for season 2 for this parallel. So your question, to kind of parry it a little bit, of what do I think about it? What I think about it doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is that there are people who do think about it, because there are so many different parallels. And if you look at sort of like what the core parallels of Topps cards are, right? It was blue out of 150, gold out of 50, red out of 5, and then the Superfractor, and then along came purple out of, I think, 250 or 299, green out of 99, yellow out of 75, orange out of 25. And that was before they added in things like wave and ray wave and lava. And I don't know what else is there now, right? And, we can poo-poo all those parallels as much as we want. But right now there is some kid or some adult, right, who is just realizing, I really like the way these ray waves look. I have, the little sort of wavy line on it. And while a lot of us, myself included, have probably made fun of it or rolled our eyes at all the parallels at some point, there's someone who's going to like it. And as long as I think Fanatics is true to that and keeps it consistent, and we can get into what they've done to the Heritage Gold starting this year, really just driving the truck over Heritage Gold this year and then backing it up and then driving it over gold again. That's the important thing, is if you're going to introduce something, keep it, right? Unless there's no demand for it, but keep it and honor the collector. So I think you're right too. I think, things like color matters. Like you mentioned, like an orange parallel for a player who plays for the Tigers, the Orioles, or the Mets. Is this going to be its most desirable? Yep. What is that you're holding up?
So for the listeners, I just held up a Logan Webb orange sapphire. He's a really great pitcher for the Giants. Dave, I don't know if you're familiar with Logan Webb, but
yeah, sure.
He's it's probably the front runner actually right now for the National League Cy Young, along with Skeens. They're probably 1A and 1B, but yeah, it's just I'd rather have this. So like, I think the color match element with the Giants, I'd rather have this than the red, even if the red's out of 5, I just think this is a better card just based on those those sort of abstract, aesthetic, elements. It's just, I just think it's and I think, yeah, that what you said there, I've never heard anybody phrase it like that. Like, I thought that was really like, what did you say? Like a small village of collectors, really, really exactly.
Devoted.
Like, yeah,
Right.
and that's the thing that I worry about with the manufacturer, that they don't, and they credit where credit's due. They brought back the black. The heritage issue obviously is another story. But I think, and you talked about consistency, and they're making some really nice cards. Like the Diamante parallels in the flagship sets this year are beautiful cards. They're like this like cracked ice kind of look, but on just regular foil. They're not chrome. They're so nice looking, but they're already expensive, and I hesitate to like get involved with them because it's like, what are they going to add next year? Are they going to do these again? Like, and that kind of stuff really matters. And it impacts other cards too. It impacts, everything, just that sort of general behavior pattern of more and more and more and infinite growth and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I really like how you kind of talked about it like that. Like, there are certain card types, certain parallels that do really grab people, and then others that just don't. Like, and it doesn't, not all the new stuff is silly and whatnot. I mean, I know, I don't like them, but those Ray waves, I know Dylan over at Double D Vintage, he loves those. Like, he talks about them all the time. He always talks about how he loves that parallel. I don't like them, but I think that's really cool. Like, that he likes those a lot and buys them. Like, I posted this on Instagram yesterday, but I have this save searched for there's a hot dog parallel in 2025 Tops. It's just so ridiculous. It's all these little hot dogs, and I just think that's super neat. I think it's super creative. The wood parallel this year, I don't know if you've seen those, but it's just like the finish is like a wood grain, whatever. It just looks like a baseball bat. I think those are really cool. But then but you're balancing that with like, okay, maybe one out of, every whatever 10 things they add is really neat. But then you have all this other, downward pressure on everything, and value. Value matters a lot to me. Like, I don't want to buy anything that I don't think is going to retain value. So that's kind of just my collector brain, sort of trying to navigate all this.
And having said that got me thinking about one of my least favorite parallels, which is their teal. It's not a very common one. I think it's out of 499. But as we're talking about Fanatics taking over licenses, I start thinking about what, if they keep it in football, what that teal parallel will look like with a player from the Dolphins, with their home uniform, which is going to look incredible. If you collect Tua or Tyreek Hill or someone who plays for the Dolphins and they're wearing the teal tops and teal parallel, that's going to be a great looking card.
I'm thinking about that too. It's like I don't want to get involved with the basketball or football stuff, but if I were, like, the first thing I would go after would be a Mahomes red sapphire out of 5. But that's going to be so expensive. So it's like, then you think though, like some of those Bengals players, like on an orange sapphire, like a Burrow card, like on this type of background, or like, I wish. So I'm a Colts fan. The Colts don't really, I don't think they have any really great like situations coming as far as that goes, because the blue is just numbered higher. I mean, the golds, are going to be out of 50 or whatever. But yeah, but if I was a Bengals fan, a Dolphins fan, a Chiefs fan, a Bills fan, anybody with a red or an orange or those are, and it's interesting because then you think about that. It's like, I wonder if they're just going to make up new random parallels just for the purpose of because they're kind of limited, because if they want to maintain this consistency, it's always been, not always, but what it is super 1 of 1, red out of 5. They've added some 10s where Panini folks are going to know the gold out of 10. In Tops, there's a black out of 10. There was a purple out of 10 in Sapphire, but that's no more. It's now the black out of 10. Typically 10 is black in tops. And then orange is always 25. Gold's always 50. And then you get into like 75, that can kind of vary. I think in Bowman, like you said, it's yellow, but it's different in other sets. Then you get to 99 is typically green, and then you're up into the 100, 150, that's blue and whatever. But yeah, like orange and red are really going to be the big time color match cards, I feel, for a lot of those sort of active guys. And then people will probably default to the golds, just out of consistency, continuity, awareness, and then
the blacks. I mean,
and
the Raiders, the Ravens, the Falcons.
Yeah, you could do some damage there. That would be pretty cool. I just feel like the blacks don't shine enough. Like for me, I guess I haven't had a black sapphire card in hand, so. Yeah. But generally, and that's another thing that we could touch on real quick. Like if you're coming from Panini to Topps, I wonder like what the reaction generally is going to be to the overall quality of the cards. In Panini, I think they still have some elements of etching where that is not a thing in Topps. There's no etching. These are flat cards with flat, there's not, like a Sapphire card has texture based on like the crackle pattern a little bit, but there's no like image texture, like where you'll get those little lines like in the jersey. Like if you collected Finest in the 90s or Finest in the 2000s, Finest today is nothing like that. Like it's just not. It does not look that good anymore. It's less shiny. I'm not saying they're bad cards, but it's just different, like fundamentally. And I think most people would know that anyway, obviously. But
yeah, I do kind of wonder that as well. When I think of the advantages that Topps has had over Panini since the Panini era started around 2012, is I think Topps just has overall, for most sports, better photography. I know Panini created Photogenic as a set a couple of years ago, but beautiful images. But when I think of Panini, I think of their consistency of parallels. They've always been there for the collector, and they don't mess with it. They might add something new, but they have the consistency. I think their card stock.
Yeah, they look shinier too, don't they?
Shinier. The corners feel sharper, right?
That's a big deal too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us not old, but a lot of us kind of middle-aged guys that were around back in the 90s and the 2000s, like we yearn for that high quality classic refractor. Like refractors are, and I'm not trying to criticize them. Like I'm sure there's business reasons for it or whatever, but the quality of the cards is not what it was back then. And that's a question I always ask myself, is like, wouldn't it be better now? But maybe they just have found better ways to make more cards at better prices, more for, whatever reason. And I'm not saying the cards are bad. I love modern cards. I buy all modern cards. But I when you hold up a refractor from 2002 and look at it compared to a refractor from 2022, you're looking at two very, very different items.
So you sent me a card, and we're going to be winding down here in just a little bit, but there's one card that you sent, and I thought that was just really, really cool, really beautiful card. I'm going to pull it up. I want you to sort of describe what it is, and then I want to know why you sent it to me from a discussion point of view, like what you kind of value that you think it has, and talking about baseball cards, because there's a lot. My mind went about 3 different directions. So I want to hear what you think of it, and it is the 24 Topps Heritage Mike Trout Gold border, chrome gold border refractor. What is it about this card?
Yeah, so this has probably been the last time I was on your show. I talked about sort of trying to really be ready for those big pickups over the course of this year, and I would say this is probably my biggest purchase so far in 2025. 2024 Topps Heritage. This is actually from the high number set, which is weird because he wasn't in the high number set, but
that's a gold refractor. That's the gold refractor, right?
That's the gold refractor, copy number 1 out of 5.
Just strange that they call it gold border in the PSA label.
Yeah, they labeled it weird. I don't know. They did that for other ones too that I've seen other people list, but yeah. So you mentioned it earlier, but the Heritage parallel structure was changed this year, where historically it had been. Heritage has a long lineage in baseball, but the first one was the black out of whatever the year was. It started at like 50 something and then went up by 1 each a subsequent year. And then around 2013, I think it was, they added the gold out of 5. And then a couple of years later, I think they added the Superfractor 101. So you only had 3 real low numbered parallels. You had the Super, the gold out of 5, and then the black out of whatever year it was. So yeah, picked this one up. I have a lot of these. Heritage Gold Refractors really became sort of the focus of my baseball card collecting once I started getting them and realizing how much I like them and how rare they are and how hard they are to find. And it just, to me, I love the Heritage brand, love the photography. I love the juxtaposition of the old and the new. You have the shiny, flashy front of the card, and then you have the old cardstock classic baseball look on the back with these vintage designs, the modern players. So this 2024, that'll be the last ever Heritage Gold out of 5 for Trout or for any player that was in that set. And the interesting thing about 2024 specifically is they chromed out everybody in the set, where historically they had selected like a list of 100 players, typically the stars and the rookies, and then the other 600 players wouldn't have a chrome version of their card. But this year, for whatever reason, in Heritage high number, anybody that did not have a chrome card in regular Heritage had a full chrome offering in high number. And also, another weird thing is, like, on the back of the cards in high number, it's glossy, where typically all Heritage backs are just regular cardboard paper stock. So that was another weird thing. And then the font is white. So like I have the Aaron Judge from 2024 as well, and the font is black. And the high number cards are actually a little bit shinier too, which is another just kind of weird thing. But yeah, to me, why did I buy it? It was just an obvious, sort of, once, this is my one shot. I like Trout. I thought it was a good deal. It was like $750. It'll be his last Heritage Gold. I have his one. I have another one. Got a, whatever. So I have the Judge from this set. I have the Lindor from this set. Connections there. He's hurt. He's down. His market is suppressed a little bit. Not a lot of people chasing rare Trout stuff on eBay right now. So I just felt like it was an advantage for me. It's best. He has the best numbers in baseball. It could go on and on. But from a career perspective, I mean, but yeah, this is the kind of stuff, like, if I was not new, but if I was somebody that was thinking about, like, okay, I'm getting involved with Topps, like, these are always the kind of cards I'm looking for: the veteran cards, the rare veteran cards, the highly attractive, good looking, good image veteran cards from products that I respect. All that kind of stuff is sort of where my head was at with this purchase.
This might be an impossible question to answer, but it ties it back to the question that we asked at the beginning, which is, if you're moving from Panini into the Fanatics universe, into the Topps universe, how do you narrow things down? At what point, maybe it wasn't a conscious moment, did you realize just how much you were into Heritage as a product and as a set, where you realized, I think I'm a Heritage collector now?
I think it's the first card I got, which actually I sold, which I wish I hadn't, but I did. So the first Heritage Gold Refractor I ever bought was the 21 Lindor out of 5. And then I got the Superfractor shortly after, I think. And I think that was, within the same year. And I just got that card. I was like, man, the shine on Heritage they seem shinier than the Topps Chrome cards. And the parallel structure was so much tighter. So I felt like I really had an edge there in terms of scarcity and rarity, because with Chrome, you have the Super out of 1, the red out of 5, the orange out of 25, the gold out of 50, 75, 150, and so on. With Heritage, it was 1, 5, 70. So there's only, 76 total variants there. So I just felt like I was really getting something of great value, just by pivoting a little bit to a different brand. Still a brand with a lot of substance and lineage within the hobby, but just a little bit off the the mainstream path there. So yeah, I knew it pretty quickly, and then I just kept getting them. Like, I was really just attacking that product early in 2021 and 2022. I got the Ohtani from 2022, which is one of my favorite cards, and which is a card I feel like I shouldn't even be able to own. And the only reason I have it was just because I got one. I got another one in hand, and then I started looking for more, and sort of snowballed. And now it's kind of sad because it's sort of over, and that chase is sort of over. I mean, you'll see some from the past, pop up on eBay every now and then, but the asking prices are so high. I mean, and it's like, even when I list them on eBay, I'm posting them at such high prices because I either, I don't really want to sell them, but if somebody wants to pay my property taxes for the year, they can do that. But it's like, it's just, it was just all of the elements just really aligned, and they were affordable. They're beautiful cards. Love the old and the new. I love vintage. But I'm more passionate about like this generation of players, and all that. So everything just kind of came together for me after those first couple cards that I got, really.
All right, Jason, thank you. I feel like we could just go on forever talking about baseball cards. Let's stop there and make a little note to pick up at some point where we left off, keep talking about baseball cards. But for now, I think we're done. Any last words, anything that you'd like to let the listeners know about where they can find you, or about last minute advice for Panini collectors as they get ready to move into this space?
Last minute advice, I would say, just find the sets that you respect, and the card types you respect, and the players you respect, and look for all those things to line up in a price point that you're comfortable with. Where you can find me, I always hear the words of "I would Dave" whenever I do any sort of like thing on YouTube, because I've never had a microphone. But Dave, you were on with Brett like however long ago, and you always said, buy one less card and get a microphone. So I bought this, $20 whatever microphone from Amazon. So I'm working on trying to make a better YouTube experience. I've got a list of ideas. I'm trying to really get more videos out like once or twice a week over there. And then obviously on Instagram is where I'm going to be most active at Contrarian Cards. And yeah, I love talking baseball.
Sorry to cut you off, but you started to recap your pickups for the week on Instagram as well, right?
Oh yeah. I've been doing a lot more like voice. So when I got this little microphone here, it kind of motivated me to get more just commentary out there. So I started the Reelcast, which is I'll just do 90 seconds trying to recap whatever I did in the hobby over the last week, whether that's a pickup or a big sale or a grading return, or just things I've noticed going on, just my general activity, where my kind of what I've been doing over the last week. And that's been kind of fun too.
Jason at Contrarian Cards, thank you. Let's do it again soon.
Thanks, Dave.